Ashley, please,
Hi.
would you like to introduce yourself to the listening audience?
Sure. My name is Ashley Scott. I am a international singer and songwriter from Philadelphia in the USA. A proud Philadelphian and also a proud Howard University alumni. Been singing since the age of 3. Just released my 7th single called Together last week, and worked with a few artists and related to a few as well. And that's just kind of been the journey of music. Has been in my blood ever since I was very young, and that's all I've ever wanted to do. So I'm just happy to be doing it now.
Oh, wow. And, what does it feel like to be able to, live your dream and to share, what's important to you, your gift? How important is that for you?
It's very important. It's when you do when you find something that you love to do, it's not a job or it's not work. It's something that obviously you enjoy doing it. So to do it and to be compensated for it, or to touch people's lives, is a blessing.
Awesome, awesome. And you mentioned that there's some people that you are related to who have been in the business. So do you want to share with us who that person or persons are?
Sure. My father's sister, her name is Helen Scott, and she's 1/3 of a female singing group from Philadelphia. She started when she was 15 years old, and she's still going strong to this very moment. Next year will be their 60th anniversary, and that makes them the longest running female vocal trio in music history. They're pretty well known in the UK and Japan and parts of Europe, and here in the United States as well, but definitely in the UK is where they get their most love. They're called the 3 Degrees.
Yes, I remember growing up. I remember hearing them on the radio and dancing around to their music, and they were lovely. And all the songs were good, and they were really popular here in the UK. So yeah, you can see you come from very good stock. And your music, I've been listening to your music, and it's very beautiful. And what would you say your genre of music is?
I would say it's R&B, definitely traditional sounding soul music, a little bit of jazz as well. Definitely some jazz undertones there. I majored in jazz voice in college at Howard University, so there's a little bit of jazz there as well. But definitely just traditional, real instrumentation in the music. Everything that you hear on my recordings, with the exception of the 2 dance remixes, were all live instrumentation. So definitely recording and being creative in a traditional way, which is
how important is it for you to have that traditional sound? And that's what I love. You can hear every instrument, and it's just beautiful. And with your voice, kind of merged together, it creates a really great sound. How important is that to you?
It's very important for a few reasons. Part of the inspiration that my aunt, or part of the inspiration that inspired me to sing, was seeing a concert that she did back in 1979 at the Royal Albert Hall in London back in 1979. And she was backed by the Royal Philharmonic, which was almost like a 100-piece orchestra.
Yeah.
So seeing that, as well as other figures from that time, whether it was a Barry White or the Jacksons or a Marvin Gaye, a lot of people, were backed by orchestras at that time. So that was always a dream of mine, to perform my music, or to perform music with an orchestra. So for me, I want everything to be as live as possible, as and sonically correct, I would say. I'm careful about using certain keyboard sounds and things of that nature, because a lot of the electronic stuff gets dated. So I don't want to be trying to find a keyboard to produce a certain sound in the music that was done back in 19 such and such or 2000 such and such to recreate that sound live. So even with the piano sounds, if you're not hearing in my music, if you're not hearing a live piano, you're hearing a Fender Rhodes, which is an electric piano. That's a general piano that you can find, in various countries. They do make them in, for live shows, or you can, produce it in a keyboard. So I try to make it as organic as possible.
Awesome. I would say we just had Valentine's Day, and you created a song specially for that day together. Beautiful song. And
Thank you.
you know, what was the inspiration behind that song? You know, how did you get the words, the melody?
So the melody, well, this particular song is one that if we're looking at songs as artwork or paintings or, you know, things of that nature, this is the first song that I visualized every color of this particular piece. That's the best analogy I can come up with to explain the creative process. And with that, I knew that I wanted something to be, again, traditional, timeless music now. I wanted something to be very reminiscent of the sound of Philadelphia. And not just the 70s, you know, Gamble and Huff era, but also the newer soul movement that came out in the 2000s era. You know, like say Jill Scott, Music Soul Child.
Neo soul.
Wow.
Yes.
Sometimes I hate to use the term neo soul, even though that's the moniker that it was
that they use,
that they use for it. Kindred, the Family Soul, Jaguar, right? A lot of those people that came out of Philadelphia, Lady Alma. And so I just wanted something to kind of represent the city, but also I wanted to create a wedding song. When, as independent artists, when we're not performing our own things, we're doing what we have to do to survive. So some people work in the private affairs industry, if you want to jokingly call them wedding singers, some people do that. And so when you're performing first dances and hearing the timeless songs that, whether it's a For You by Kenny Lattimore, or When I'm With You by Tony Terry, or It Had to Be You, you know, from the jazz standard, or a Brian McKnight song, or a Lionel Richie song, or, you know, something Stevie Wonder, Ribbon in the Sky, or You and I. I wanted to kind of create something of my own to be in that lineage of songs. And here late at night, I'm not sure about over there in the UK, but Time Life has a lot of infomercials.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
When you see those late at night, you know, I'm glued to them because I'm looking at them offering DVDs of the Soul Train or the Midnight Special, or just their CD compilations of the best of the 70s, the best of the 80s, the 90s, soft rock, duets, wedding songs. This is the decade of 2020. So when they released the 2020 decade of music in 2050, I want my music to be.
You want to be on there. Yes.
Yeah, I want to be on there. So I just wanted to kind of create something that will last. And I was just very intentional with the writing and the creative process with this. The song was produced by my best friend. His name is Stan Davis Jr. He's a multi-instrumentalist. He plays keys, bass, and guitar fluently. And he has played guitar on all of my records. So Words, Dance the Night Away, Thought of You, Don't Throw Our Love Away. And he helped me produce this particular track. And so we cut the rhythm section, and while he is capable of orchestrating the entire thing, there was an arranger that I had on my bucket list of people that I've always wanted to work with. And so I put a call into a guy by the name of Dennis Doc Williams. And Doc is the longtime musical director for the OJs. He's been playing with the OJs since 1972.
Oh my goodness.
He and Eddie Levert wrote a song for Gene Carn on Philly International called My Love Don't Come Easy. And he also did a lot of session work for Gerald Levert when Gerald was calling for strings and horns on his solo albums. He would just call basically Uncle Doc to come in and arrange it. So Doc is always an amazing musician. And so I called him and said, hey, look, I'm ready to work with you. Here's the vision, here's the song. He liked the song and he arranged the strings and horns, and he sent me the charts, went back into the studio, had a string quartet come in and cut the string parts, and the horn players, they cut their parts at home due to COVID, which was great. And the horn section consists of Ernest Stewart on trombone, Corey Riker on sax, and Chris Stevens on trumpet. And they all play individually with a lot of people, but collectively as a group, they all play with John Legend. So it was just an amazing experience to record this particular song, and I'm excited about it. So Valentine's Day was the perfect time to drop it because it is a love song. And February is also the start of the bridal season. So everybody that got their New Year's proposals, Christmas Eve proposals, they're all going to the bridal expos now to start planning their weddings for 2023 or later this year if they're trying to do something very quickly. So I want this song to be a first dance or something that you can walk down the aisle to.
That's beautiful. And it just shows that, yeah, creating the song and all the people you mentioned who's behind the scenes and getting it right so that you drop it at the right time. As you said, February is a really significant month, and you were able to do that. Was that hard to get all those things in place, get the right people, the right team, and to get it all finished in time?
Not really. I started working on the song in the fall. So
Okay.
it took a little bit of time, but you had to kind of do it in pieces. So, cut the rhythm section on one session, string section on another session, then background vocalists. And I had four friends of mine. They're actually brothers, and they're a group called Before the World. And I got them to come in and lay the background vocals to give it that full, harmony in there. And I did my leads, and then we went on to mixing and mastering, and here we are. Again, this particular song, it definitely took, some time in different sessions had to do it in pieces.
Awesome, beautiful. In speaking to you briefly earlier on, I asked you about your spiritual values. How important are your spiritual values in your music, in how you create your music and what you decide to put out?
It's very important. I definitely want things to be pleasing, to the ear of everyone, but also pleasing to the man upstairs. While it's not gospel music, I think music overall is a ministry, and no matter what, it can touch someone's life. I mean, Babyface is one of the all-time greatest producers in the world, but he may not have done a gospel song, but you can't tell me that some of his music has not united people in love, helped people through a breakup.
Absolutely, yes.
Put them in a loving mood, if you will.
Absolutely.
So, it's a ministry. And so I'm thankful for the gift and thankful for the vision. And you have to, in this business, you have to look at it as a business, and you have to be a project manager. And when you're putting out music, you have to manage the entire project from start to finish, from writing the song to recording to mixing to mastering to handling the business and putting it out and promoting it after the fact. So but again, I'm thankful. I know I digressed a little bit, but I'm thankful for the vision and the blessing to do what I do and the gift.
I love that you said it's a business, because back in the day, I think a lot of musicians didn't really get involved in, the business aspect. And
right.
It didn't, you heard a lot of not very nice stories in the end. How important was it for you to be involved in every facet, and, especially the business aspect of it? And if you're anyone listening who's into music or who would like to be doing what you're doing, what would you say to them is really important to know about the business part of the music business?
I would say at this point, it's no need for them to not know about the music business and to not know that it is a business, and that they need to look at themselves as a business in the entertainment business. Without going deeply into names, I know of too many people that have had a lot of litigation in their careers because of, and a lot of stuff has kind of come out on artists from TV shows like Unsung or Behind the Music on VH1. So you hear the horror stories of what happened to the people that came before us and the people that we all know and love. We only see, as fans, we only hear the music and see the bright lights and the videos and the concerts. We don't know what they're going through internally. A lot of people have gone through, finances or things within their own situation. So I always knew that it was a business. And in college, one of my, a friend of the family, she worked for the city of Philadelphia. And so she gave me an opportunity to learn the business. And so in college, I interned at a radio station. I worked in concert promotion, started on the production team of this concert venue here in Philadelphia, where I learned how to set up the equipment and, how the show was actually run from backstage. Then I moved up to the executive staff. So I was doing club promotions and radio promotions and typing scripts for the host and learning the contracts of performance and seeing artists sign their contracts and seeing what people are getting paid to perform. Like, really, this is what this person gets paid? Wow. So I was blessed to kind of learn it early on. And I was kind of stayed on the business side for a long time as well, because I started my own events company, became an entrepreneur, producing shows and events here in the city. Always still singing, performing again in that private affair industry and as another income, and working with different artists on their teams. So I've also worked on the teams of artists like Marcus Johnson, Will Downing, Najee, doing administrative stuff and also social media management and things of that nature. So I've seen both sides of the coin in terms of being in this business on both the creative and the business side. So stepping in and handling my own situations was easy for me. Sometimes you take for granted that you think people know everything that you do, and they don't. So again, I'm saying all that to say people have to learn the business. Google is your friend. And everybody out here now is a consultant and an expert. I'm not saying they know everything. I'm just saying you can take all the information that you can and absorb it and put those practices in play for you in your own business. But just know that it is a business, and you have to learn the practices and the processes of this thing, because if you skip a step, it might be a big step.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's great advice, I feel there. And I want to ask you, what's your thoughts about the changing face of music, R&B? And I love that you're keeping the integrity, and a lot of the people you mentioned, stick to the integrity of R&B. But what's your thoughts about, some of the changes that's going on in R&B music today?
I would say, well, I try to listen to the good stuff and help to promote the good stuff, because the good stuff isn't getting the visual eyes that it needs. A lot of people have said, I was just in a Clubhouse room with a producer that his name is Kerry Brothers. He was Alicia Keys' partner in producing those first two albums on her. And a lot of people were saying in the room, well, they asked me my thoughts. They said, do you think R&B is dead? Do you think soul music is dead? And I said, it never went anywhere. It just isn't the popular music anymore that it was in the 70s and 80s, or even for the 60s for that matter, because of Motown. So that was soul music, but it became pop music. So looking back, I think that we have to realize, and this is just a general life statement that I'm going to make, that things have seasons, and the season of it being the popular thing, I just pray that it comes full circle at some point soon. But it never died. You still have people out here that are keeping the integrity of R&B, but they're just not in the mainstream. Jasmine Sullivan is one right now that is in the mainstream, but still keeping the integrity of R&B. Beyonce is R&B, but she's pop at the same time. But you still have other talented figures like a Mesa, a Will Downing, a Eric Roberson, a Frank McComb, Ledisi, Layla Hathaway, Rasan Patterson, Phil Perry, Carol Riddick, Jill Scott, Music Soul Child, Kendrick the Family Soul, Vivian Green, Lady Alma, all the Philly people, and I'm leaving some folks out, and forgive me if I didn't name you. However, there are still great people out here. Anthony Hamilton, doing great things. So
so many. You're right. I have a radio show that I do, and I have a segment dedicated to soul music. And everyone you mentioned there virtually are on my playlist. So and now I know about your music as well. That will be added to, because definitely you're in that genre. I know you've got a family, and what's and also the family you were born into was, I know your aunt was a musician and what have you, but did your parents have the gift as well, and are you seeing the gift in your children?
So no, my mother and father can't sing, but they love music. And my dad had a great record collection. So growing up, he was constantly playing the first Chicago album, Songs in the Key of Life by Stevie Wonder, every Earth, Wind and Fire album that he had, and I just love that music. And as far as my own children, they do love music, and they are my biggest inspiration right now. My two daughters, my daughters are 6 and 3,
Oh,
and
wow.
they are my
Well, yeah.
biggest. They're my biggest supporters, fans, and cheerleaders, and they have, they know most of my songs. So sometimes I'm playing my own stuff in the car, just to kind of, give them stuff to learn, because they're going to inherit all this stuff at some point. So they need to know what it is. And I'm have to teach them the business as well. My oldest daughter loves Disney movies and
Oh.
musicals. So she's constantly singing along. She has a voice. I haven't decided to turn into Joe Jackson and
Like the big stick, yeah.
right, and or Debbie Allen from Fame, and really be the
Yes.
taskmaster, but my youngest daughter, she's singing along to things, and she's still developing all her words and everything, but when she's singing along, she does have good pitch. My oldest daughter has good pitch as well, but there's a little, fine refined tuning that can happen. So, but they love my song Dance the Night Away. That's their favorite.
That's beautiful. I'd ask you, a lot of young people want to get into the business, and you just mentioned your children as well. Would you be happy to see your children in the business? And what would you say to anybody now who's wanting to go in, and if they wanted advice from you, what would your advice be?
If this is what you truly want to do, you have to dedicate yourself to it. One thing that my Aunt Helen always said to me was that you owe this business everything, and this business owes you nothing. So you have to be dedicated to it. You have to learn your craft. One thing about her is that they were taught from their manager that if you can entertain an audience, you can work for the rest of your life. And a hit record is just icing on the cake to create more work. So, I mean, she's still coming. The group is coming to England this year. They were there right before the pandemic, and they're still touring to this day. And they haven't had they released the album about 5 years ago, but they haven't had a huge, massive hit since what, 19, I won't say, but probably like My Simple Heart or something like that.
Okay, yeah.
Haven't got new. So you're talking 1979 or 80, but they're still touring. So just keep working, and there's always a market for you. There's a niche somewhere, and spiritually speaking, God will make room for your gift and your talent.
You mentioned the pandemic. How has it impacted? Did it impact you or your friends in the business? And what I noticed, a lot of artists were coming up with creative ways of getting their music out. Did it impact you? And if so, what creative ways were you using to connect with your fans?
It did impact us. We couldn't go out and perform. So, and it's funny, I just released Dance the Night Away in February of 2020, did a huge 2 nights of shows here in Philly, sold out, 4 shows in 2 nights. And I was ready to, go out and promote the record, try to take the show on the road. And it was doing well in the UK. It got BBC airplay and everything like that. So I was excited for the international success, and March hit, and it was like, okay, everything's shut down.
Oh my God, yes.
Everything is canceled. Private affair dates, canceled. Artists that I work with, tour dates, canceled. So everybody's trying to figure out, okay, artists make money from performing. So, all right, where's this next dollar coming from? Because these royalty checks don't come in until a few months from now. What do we do? So try to find other things to do. I started an internet radio show that I do once a week, and it's on various stations globally. And so I've tried several things to do this to keep myself out there. I did put out a dance remix for Dance the Night Away in June of 2020. In 2021, I was ready to go with 3 more singles, which I did last year. Once things kind of let up, we were able to kind of go into recording studios and do some things all socially distanced. So it did work out. So I'm thankful for the time, because sometimes we're all in the hustle and bustle of life, and the pandemic really shut everybody down and
Yes.
forced everybody
So,
to
yeah.
stop what they're doing, breathe, and regroup. And I'm thankful for that time.
Awesome. You mentioned that your aunt gave you that advice about recording. Artists recording is the icing on the cake, and performing is, you know, the bread and butter. Which one do you prefer? Do you prefer to go out there and connect with the people,
Oh
or
yes,
yeah?
yeah. I definitely
What is
like.
it about? What is it about connecting with the people for you?
It's an enjoyable moment. You're creating a moment in people's lives. You're making their night special. You're singing songs that touch their hearts. So and the fact that now I'm thankful to have 7 singles under my belt, because I now have songs that people are telling me now, hey, I really like that song. It really got me through a time. Or, you know, I had a presenter from the UK inbox me last year on Facebook, and my first single, Words, came out in 2016, but it was picked up for the Expansion Records compilation Luxury Soul for Luxury Soul 2017. So it had some extended life. And it didn't get a lot of airplay, especially in that market, but I was thankful that, you know, a little bit, and it was noticed on that CD. Well, this one presenter from one station inboxed me and said, hey, he said, it was around the time last year I released Don't Throw Our Love Away. And he said, hey, great new track, and I'm definitely playing it on my show, but I really like your song Words. And he said, I was at a wedding last week, and this was last year when he was telling me, he said, and someone actually came up to me and requested that song to slow dance to it after my dance set. And I said, really? He said, yeah. He said, and the couple got out there and they danced to it and they were singing along. And then about 4 or 5 other couples got out there and joined them, and everybody was singing the song. And I was like, really? I said,
Wow.
I didn't think that people really knew that song as much as they knew Dance the Night Away or now Don't Throw Our Love Away. He said, oh yeah, man. He said, great song. So that was a great moment for me, because it actually touched my heart, because as creatives, you never know how your work will affect people, and you never know who it reaches, especially in this day and time. And so that was my moment now. So because for years, of course, being related to an artist or being around artists, I'm always hearing people tell Will Downing, oh, nothing has ever felt like this was my wedding song. Or somebody will come up to my aunt and say, when will I see you again brought me back to my first love. Excuse the background noise. Or the Delphonics, who are like uncles to me. Lala Means I Love You was the only way I could tell my girlfriend I love her, because I got tongue tied, you know, things of that nature. So I was happy to, you know, have somebody say, you know, Words was requested and people were singing along and that kind of thing.
You know, and how is that? You know, when you listen to people who create music like yours, and they say it was my wedding song, or my child was born, or people say sometimes their child was born because of that particular music. How is that for you to know that you're making, you know, you're making such a difference in the important areas of people's lives, one of the most important areas?
It's a beautiful thing. I mean, it's something that I waited all my life to hear. So I'm happy to kind of be hearing them now. And I'm hoping that Together is going to be that song that people get married to and have that first dance to. That's why I was very intentional with writing and releasing the song.
That's beautiful. And, you know, what would you say you would like people to, you know, what is the legacy of your music that you feel you'd like people to associate to, you know, to when they listen to your body of music?
I want them to, I would say, I want people to digest it, to like it, to love it, and to keep playing it forever and ever. I hope that it really did help someone, whether it was trying to save a relationship and saying, hey, don't throw our love away, or Words being, you know, for being a song that's about being in a marriage or a relationship and having an argument and kind of tabling the conversation to your more level-headed. You know, I'm hoping that people kind of come back with those type of stories. I have a song that I released last year as well called The Thought of You. And that song is what I call the saving grace relationship song for those that are entrepreneurs or business. It's a song for the chef that's always in the kitchen, the lawyer who's always in court, the doctor who's always at the hospital, or the musician who's always on tour that has a significant other at home that's feeling neglected or jealous because of their life. So the hook of the chorus says, "The thought of you puts a smile on my face. The thought of you puts my mind in space. The thought of you makes me want to race home to you." So that's what I call the relationship reassurance song. So
wow.
I hope that that helped people.
As you were talking there, what came to me was, do people tend to come to you as a counselor? Do you find people ask you lots of questions about their relationship, or, relationship? Do you find people are cornering you and say, "Oh, this is happening in my relationship. What do you think I should do?" Because
No, I
out all
don't.
this.
I don't. I'm definitely not Dr. Phil. So, or Dear Abby. No, definitely not. I try not to give advice because you don't want someone to kind of blame you for something that you said later on.
Yeah.
So I don't have that advice column. I'm definitely not the love doctor. So
Yeah, I just thought, because I've heard people say, because they like certain songs or they sing certain songs, people associate them with understanding, their problems. But like you said, it could end up becoming, another profession, and
right.
yeah, people think, oh yeah. So
That would be funny. Dr. Ash.
awesome. So you started and you was in a choir, weren't you? What I would ask you is, there's something about the choir. What would you say for you? Because anytime you speak to great artists, great singers, a lot of them are associated to a choir. What would you say? Would you say that's got any meaning to you? Or and if so, what would you say is the great thing about starting there?
That was probably one of the greatest times of my life, especially in college, as a member of the Howard Gospel Choir. The music, the training, the experiences that I had with that choir are some of the most memorable moments of my life. Even when I listen to that music now, I get, a little choked up and chills a little bit, just because of I don't sing it as much anymore. The training that I had with the Howard Gospel Choir not only trained my ear, but it just creatively as well. And also just being having retention of the music, because when you're in a choir, you have to know your note and remember the words, and with any type of music. But it was a training that I still hold with me till this day. So whenever we come back to choir reunions and everything, it's always like an emotional moment, because the music, singing that gospel music in college was a tough time. It can be a tough time for anyone.
Yes.
So that music was the inspiration to see you through the tough times, whether it was dealing with finances or educational situations or whatever else that people go through in college. So that was just the best time of my life. And I'm a proud, not only just a proud Howard alumni, but a proud Howard Gospel Choir alumni, because the Howard Gospel Choir was one of the first college choirs to sing gospel music, and especially on a historically Black college and university here in America. So some people think that it was the Fisk Jubilee Singers, but they were the Fisk Jubilee Singers. They didn't build themselves as a gospel choir like Howard University did. So.
Wow. Awesome. So awesome answer. I want to ask you, what does the future hold for you? You've got this fantastic album out. I also want you to let people know how they can get hold of it. But what does the future hold for Ashley Scott?
Well, right now I am trying to be creative and come up with another song to release later this year. I have my own label, and I'm releasing things as I'm able to during these tough times. So right now I'm just promoting together and trying to promote this as long as I can. I'm praying that it gets a good, lifespan on international radio. But that it just doesn't go totally into exile or into the phantom zone to where you
I'm
don't
sure it won't.
hear it
I'm sure it
anymore.
won't. Yeah.
So trying to take the show on the road and travel and perform in different markets. It's a dream and everyday prayer to kind of come to your side of the pond.
Yeah, the UK. Yes.
So I'm looking to connect with promoters and venues
Awesome.
to kind of make that happen. So it's my everyday dream and prayer. So I'm hoping this year, hoping next year, hoping sometime soon. So
Oh, bless. Yeah, that would be lovely. I definitely feel you would go down so well, in the UK as your aunt did as well. And definitely your music is a music that definitely makes people feel good. And don't we need that so much these days with all that we're going? We need to feel good. And what I think is really important is your music and the music of the artists the artists you mentioned earlier. It's bringing people together and reminding people of how important it is, to have those important relationships and whether it's with family, partners, your children. So yeah.
yes, ma'am.
Is there anything you want to share with the listening audience? Is there anything you want definitely let people know how they can, say someone wants to come and work with you or be on your label or connect with you or find out more about you, how to get hold of your music? How can they do that?
So everything is at my website, ashleyscottmusic.com. They can go there and find me on social media. So on Twitter and Instagram, my handle is at @AshleyScott3. On Facebook, it's I am Ashley Scott. And now on TikTok, which I'm trying to really adapt to.
Yes, I'm trying to yeah.
It's Ashley Scott Music. And they can also go to my website and purchase all of my singles if they click on the music store as well. And I have some t-shirts and things available as well in the merchandise store. So please go have a look around and support. And I'm thankful for everyone's support thus far.
Awesome. Any last words before we wrap up? Anything that you would like people to know, or do you think we've covered everything?
I think we covered a lot, but I would just ask people to go to the website, Ashley Scott Music, and purchase all the music directly from me. Streams are okay, but we like downloads still, especially from the website. So please go there and support. And you can get all the music right there. So Dance the Night Away, Words, the remixes, Thought of You, Don't Throw Our Love Away. It's all right there at AshleyScottMusic.com.